I'm going to ask my friend Wesley if you would come. Wesley's going to share a few words with us. He originally was going to do this on video, but video's not good enough for Wesley. You have to have Wesley live to make it work.
You'll notice that our pastor walked up the steps and I came up where there was something to hold on to. That's the difference in our age. I want to welcome all of you. I want to thank you so much for being here. I want to thank God for giving me Jeanie Peyton for 61 years. And I want to thank the church, our friends, golfing friends, neighborhood friends, friends from churches I've pastored, friends of Chris and Wes and Kelly, all of you for coming together. I want to thank the church for your prayers, the food brought in, and the cards, and so much support day by day. Some of you have flown from long distances to come and celebrate the life of Jeanie Peyton. And I want to clarify something because you have seen on the internet her name. We call her Jeanie Peyton. Her name is actually Gloria Norma Jean, Normagene Peyton. She has dealt with that her entire life. It has been a nightmare. They've almost refused to let us board planes till they found out who she was. But we simplified it and called her Jeanie. The family will be having a private service this afternoon for her burial, and we'll be celebrating, and each one will be speaking, singing, dancing, whatever they want to do to celebrate her life. I just want to thank my pastor, Don Williams, his lovely wife, Jenny, for all they have done, not just during this time of suffering and her cancer, but through 12 years of letting us be part of this church, on occasion using me in the ministry, letting Jeanie be used with her Munch Bunch, which has grown and was her vision, which shocked me, and all the things and all the happiness and all the joy they have brought into our life since we've been at Pawleys Island. We thank you, Pastor Don and Jenny, for all you've done. And Don would come to the hospital and to the house to visit her, especially during this illness. And sometimes Don would just sit and sing to her. He can sing. I cannot sing, but he can sing. And I'll never forget a few weeks ago when she was still able to kind of comprehend and react. I went into her and I said to her, Jeanie, Don is not coming today to sing to you, but I'm going to sing to you. And even in the midst of her suffering, she burst out laughing. No respect. And today we honor our family who has been devastated by the loss of this wonderful lady. Our pastor walked up to me a few weeks ago when I was able to come to church. He found me there at the back, walked up and said, how are you doing? And I could not answer. He simply said, it's devastating, Wesley, and it is devastating. But God has been good to give us strength, and each of you has helped bring strength into our life. A couple things before I speak. One, if I have preached hundreds of times across the country. I have conducted hundreds of funerals and weddings. I've spoken on radio and television, but I've never spoken at the service for my wife. So if I say the wrong thing, forgive me, please. And if I do, don't write me. Write Don Williams. He has paid the big bucks to deal with this. But please forgive me if I do. I'd like to begin our remarks, and mine are called reflections. A couple things you may not know about Jeanie. Her desire to move to Myrtle Beach. We used to come here like many families on vacation. We stayed a lot of times at Kingston Plantation. One time while we were here, Jeanie got a call from her cousin, and invited us to dinner in their mobile home, which is close to Kroger, a place called Green Lakes. And we came down and had dinner. I was amazed how nice this was. And her husband took me on the golf cart, 10 minutes from the beach. And I said to her, what do these cost? She said, about $35,000, maybe. I said, that's a car. In fact, where I came from in Fairfax County, that's a bathroom. And I said, you know, we might could own one of these. And I said, if you find one, please let me know. So certainly, it wasn't long till I got a call, and a man was going to sell his, and he called me, and he said, but you need to know that my price is non-negotiable. This is the price. And I went down, and it was beautiful. He had taken such care of it. It was a gorgeous place, came with a golf cart, and equipped beautifully. And Jeanie was so excited. It was just the two of us that day. And after we met with him and looked at that, and we were thinking about it, we went over to the beach. And Jeanie, I'll never forget, rolled up her pants legs and went out into the ocean. And I can see her standing out there as I stood on the shore. And she said, Wesley, let's put out a fleece. Now, if you don't know what a fleece is, you can read it in the Bible where Gideon had a fleece. But basically, it's where you do something and God shows his will by how he answers. And she said, let's put out a fleece and let's offer him less. And if he takes it, we'll know it's God's will that we move or buy this to come to when we can. If he doesn't, we'll know it's God's will that we don't. I'm standing on the shore laughing on the inside, knowing that no matter what the answer is, she's going to come up with another answer, and she's going to try one more fleece to see if it works. I knew that. So we went home, and I agreed, and I said, you make the call. I'm going to the grocery store. He said he would not take a penny less. I was at the grocery store, hadn't bought the first item till my phone rang. And she said he took it at the price we offered, and I knew I was on my way to Myrtle Beach. And we bought a vacation home, which we loved. It was lovely, and we came to it, and we enjoyed it so much. During the process, we finally decided to sell our house and store our furniture so we wouldn't have to look for a house in a hurry, and we moved into that place. I was amazed how many friends we had that wanted to come visit us after we bought that mobile home. And I was surprised because it was in a mobile home park. They didn't care. They came down. When they came, we made them welcome, and I said to each of them, we're so glad to have you. We tried to provide for you, but I need to tell you, if you call this a trailer while you're here, you will never be invited back to see us again. And then we found this church after looking at church after church after church, and we enjoyed pastor's ministry, and the people were so nice, and we just fell in love with the church. And we started coming here, and I don't know if Don remembers, but back then they started something, I think it was called Koinonia, but it was a type thing where a family, several families would agree that this week you come to our home and maybe next month we go to your home, like to get to know one another. And we would switch around several times. And Jeanie was, you know how excited she stayed? She said, let's do this. And I said, we can't, Jeanie. When they find out we live in a trailer park, they'll never let us go back to that church again. We cannot do this. And we didn't. But that was not true. This church doesn't care where you live. They care how you live. They have a heart for people. And they accepted us. And we did start coming to this church. And eventually, I came in one day. We sold our house. And she just said, Wesley, we need to talk. I knew we were getting ready to have a come to Jesus meeting right then. I said, what do you want to talk about? She said, Wesley, I know you're enjoying it here. And I know you like having all that money in the bank from the sale of the house. But I'm not going to live in a trailer park the rest of my life. She said, we're going to find a house. And we did. We found a lovely home with great neighbors. And we moved in, have enjoyed living there so much. That was her fleece. Number two, you probably didn't know that Jeanie was an avid football fan. And our boys trained her, and she loved football. And when we were invited to someone's home, she didn't want to go because the women wanted to go to the kitchen and talk. Jeanie wanted to see the game. And when I pastored in Wheaton, Maryland, the parsonage was right next to the church. And we had a Sunday night service at 6 o'clock. And so the Redskins often played on into the evening. And I would tell Jeanie, I've got to go to church. I'm the pastor. She said, I'm not the pastor. I don't have to go. And so she worked out a deal with the deacons. And she would stay home and watch the game to the end. And then she would come in the church gracefully down the aisle. And as she went down the aisle, she would go a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And they would know who won. She loved football. When we started being part of Calvary Nazarene Church, one of the men there and families had, of course, a seat at the ballpark, you know, a season ticket. And he came to me and said, would you mind if I invited Miss Peyton to go with me? I said, Lord, no, take her to the game. I didn't want to go. And he took her to one of those games, and people around him knew him. And he said, now, Miss Peyton, would you like for me to explain football to you before we start the game? She said, I think I'm fine. Don't worry. The next time when he went back to the game, of course, without her, the people around him said, who's that woman? She knew everything about the game, who the players were, who their numbers were. They were astounded. And then you might not know, but some of you in this church know that on the day she discovered Chico's, my assets went down. They went down like a stock market. They fell. You probably don't know, and I'll mention it later, that Jeanie grew up in extremely poor home, and her mother made all her clothes. Actually, as a child, she actually wore what we used to call hand-me-downs that were donated to the church. And up through her college days, her mother would go and get patterns and bolts of material and make her clothes. Now, I'm going to tell you this much. At college, wherever she was, wherever she went, this is an old saying, she looked like she stepped out of a bandbox. I don't care if they were homemade. She always looked good. But she loved to dress. But when she found Chico's, there was a new world open. I would go with her and sit out front on that bench at Market Commons and wait on her. And no matter how much shopping she had done, we would go there and eat quite often. She said, I just think I'll go to Chico's and just look and see if they've got anything. And when we go out of town, they got depressed at Chico's if she was not around. It hasn't been long that we went up there one afternoon and for dinner. And she said, I will go in and look around. And I sat out front, but she stayed a little too long. And I went in to check on her. They said, oh, yeah, she's back in the dressing room. And I went back. There was a dressing room with her name on it. I said, my God, now she has her own dressing room at Chico's. I've had it. But she loved to dress. Something you don't know, she bought everything on sale. Whatever she wore, she bought on sale. She just knew how to match it. And I don't ask you to agree, but that girl could put on anything and look like a movie star. Everything. You may or may not know that she did not know how to dress down. I would tell her, we're going to Costco. It didn't matter to her. She had to go to Costco. She might have jeans on, but they glittered. We got to go to Costco. She did not know how to dress down. In February, after coming back from Germany, Jeanie was sick. We knew she was sick. She was rushed to the hospital by rescue squad and ER, and the next day they did exploratory surgery. And being a chaplain there for 11 years, I pretty much have access to most places in the hospital. And I was standing outside the emergency room, the operating room, waiting on them to come out. People had offered to be with me. Pastor's always there if I need him. But I said, no, I'm fine. I've done this 60 years. I'm going to tell you one thing. When they came out and told me it was her, everything went out the window. They say, we found a mass on her colon. We think it's cancer. I followed the stretchers. They took her up to her room, the bed, and got her in her room. She was asleep, and I sat down by her bed. And just after a while, she woke up. I was sitting there. She looked over at me. She said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Why do you think something's wrong?" She said, "You're too quiet." Why would anybody think me being quiet? I am quiet. Why would they think me being quiet means something's wrong? But as a police chaplain for 8 years, I learned that you tell it right now. And I stepped up. I said, "They have found a mass. They do believe it's malignant." And I sat back down. In a few minutes, she said, "Wesley, you know I don't want chemo." I said, "I know." She said, "Will you support me?" I said, "Yes, I will." And we waited a few more minutes. And she said, "Wesley, you know who I want to preach my funeral?" I said, "Yes, me. I'm your husband." She said, "No, Don Williams." Didn't flinch. And he will come momentarily to do that. Please allow me, and Don has allowed me a little extra time. I want to share a note from the grandchildren and from Eddie, who wrote for the grandchildren, and then, of course, from Wes. These are words about the grandma from the grandchildren from Eddie. He writes, "If you think Jeanie showed you a lot of love, could you ever imagine what it was like being her grandson? As I reflect on Grandma, I'm not necessarily met with specific memories or conversations, but instead an all-encompassing feeling of warmth, comfort, and love. She made me feel her love. That dainty, petite woman could demonstrate a surprising amount of strength when she hugged me. She would hold me tightly, and I could feel how much I meant to her. I didn't recognize how important that love was when I was a child or a teenager. But as I have grown into an adult and encountered moments of challenge and sorrow and loneliness, Grandma's embrace has always been right there with me to remind me that hope and joy are just around the corner. I have never spent a single moment of my life wondering if I am loved or cared about. Grandma made sure of that, and she is never going to let me forget it." And her 3 grandsons say amen to that. Wes, our son, writes, both for he and Chris, about their mother. "As I reflect on the life of my mother, I am reminded of the countless ways she made our world brighter, kinder, and more beautiful. She was not just a mother, she was a source of unwavering strength, compassion, and boundless love. In every smile she shared, in every comforting word she spoke, in every selfless act she performed, she demonstrated the true meaning of love and devotion. My mother was a beacon of light in the darkest of times, a guiding force that shaped my life with wisdom and grace. Her love was a constant, like a gentle breeze that never wavered, providing comfort and reassurance in my most challenging moments. She taught me the importance of kindness, generosity, and the power of a loving heart. Her legacy is not only in the memories I hold, but also in the values she instilled in me and in everyone that she touched. She leaves behind a profound impact on the world through the love that she shared, the lessons she taught, and the lives she touched. Today, I not only mourn her passing, but also celebrate the incredible life she lived. In the days and weeks ahead, as I navigate the void left by her absence, I draw strength from the love and lessons she gave me. She never was one to preach or condemn or judge others. She just lived her life in a manner that was an example for myself and all of us. Even in the most recent days following her passing, our entire family has been compelled to exercise the patience, acceptance, forgiveness, and unconditional love she taught us through the way she lived in her life. In doing so, we pay tribute to the most wonderful mother in the world. From Wes and Chris. Pastor, if you'll allow me just another moment, I'd like to touch on the obituary if you did not read it. And Chris wrote that, which I appreciate so much. On November, and I want to tell you, I don't like long funerals. I complain about them all the time. I want to tell you that. We would get in the car after a long funeral, and I would say, "Jeanie, why in the world does a funeral have to last so long?" And she took up for everybody. She said they've lived 75 or 80 years, or they should be celebrated. So today, I guess it'll be a little longer than I hoped for. On Sunday, November 5th, 2023, Jeanie Peyton, the loving wife of Reverend Wesley Peyton, devoted mother of Wesley Jr. and Christopher Peyton, and adoring grandmother of Eddie, Eric, and Alec Peyton, died peacefully at her home, surrounded by her family in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. She was 81 years old. She was born and raised in Martinsville, Virginia, the only daughter of Husey and Gertrude Trail. Her mother was an exceptionally resourceful and deeply spiritual woman who managed to overcome enormous obstacles to break the generational cycle of poverty and ensure that her daughter had the opportunity to pursue higher education and a better life than one she had. With no more than a 6th grade education and a job working as a seamstress for a local knitting mill, her mother, Gertrude, sold her own homemade apple pies to co-workers during lunch breaks to save up enough money to pay her daughter's way to go to college. I know you like Frank's, and I know many of you have been to Ruth's Steakhouse, but till you eat her apple pies, you ain't lived, brother. You ain't lived. That was some living. And when the time came, her mother took her only daughter off to Emmanuel College, filled with a suitcase full of clothes, all of which she had made herself. Jeanie graduated from Emmanuel's 2-year program, 1962, went on to finish her BA in business education at East Carolina University, where she graduated in 1964, and some years later, Jeanie pursued and completed her master's education while working as a full-time high school teacher of business education. Jeanie went on and would have a 32-year career teaching high school in the greater Washington, D.C. area, and was the head of the business education department at Churchill High School in Montgomery County for 18 years. During all this time, she continued to be a wonderful wife and pastor's wife. In 1962, she married her college sweetheart, Wesley Peyton. That's me. And I was already in the ministry. We don't have time to go into that, but I'll tell you this. We met at Emmanuel College, small church college. This story you will not understand. Small church college. In this college, you were not allowed to touch a female. You couldn't kiss them, hold their hand. You could talk to them. That was it. And that's the way it was. But I want to tell you, if you broke that rule, you would be sent home. It is a miracle we weren't sent home the whole time we dated. Some of the sweetest kisses I ever had was underneath the stairs in the ad building. Howdy. He wouldn't get caught. You just thought she was so good, didn't you? Amen. But we had a great time there. And I just fell in love with her. Now, I want you to listen very carefully. I've got to tell this. If Jeanie were here right now, right here, she would say, Wesley, you tell this story slow. She said it our entire life. We dated in February. We got married in August. And we had our first child in October 1 year later. Follow that carefully. He's 60 years old, and he used to tell his mother they were going to be in the same nursing home because they were so close together in their age. She was a wonderful pastor's wife, and we that go to this church have a wonderful pastor's wife she used to just admire Jeanie and just talk about her, and we're so blessed, and she was a wonderful pastor's wife. I took a church was given a church in Alexandria, Virginia. The pastor actually died. He had founded the church, left it to me, and it began to grow. And I asked Jeanie to teach a Sunday school class. We kind of bought houses like you've done here around the church. And she started a class. And it wasn't long till she had 150 people in her Sunday school class. And on Sunday, it was a problem because they didn't want to leave her class to come hear me preach. And when the bell would ring, I would send people over, tell them we're ready to start church. But they didn't want to start. They wanted to stay over there. But she really was a great teacher. And she just loved people. She gave guidance. And she supported me always in my ministry and whatever I did. And I want to tell you that as a minister, and I know Don knows this, and he has been such a source of strength to me, that I have tried over the years as a chaplain to give strength to others and to bless others and to encourage others. But I want to tell you that my strength came from her. She was a bright light that never ceased to shine, even in the darkest of times. She was a light when the world got dark around us that would say the light's coming back. It hasn't left us, Wesley. And she was a steadying force to her family and to all of us and to those. I know I need to close, but I just want you to know it was written by her children that she played the role of mother, and had she deserved to win an Academy Award for being a mother. She was the kind of mother that everyone hoped they had someday or hoped to be themselves. But even then, she was smart. When our oldest son started to drive, got his learner's permit, Jeanie and I went on a trip and left the car there. And I said to him, now Wes, don't move this car. Don't touch it. We're out of town. Don't drive this car. And Jeanie and I got ready to leave and went and got in the car. And she said, Wesley, go up there and check the mileage on that car. I said, don't you trust our son? Well, why would I do that? She said, go up there and check the mileage on our car. I said, well, he will never touch it. But I went up there and checked the mileage. And I wrote it down. And we took our trip. We got back. And I got out. She said, go check the mileage. And I checked it. Well, somebody been driving my car. I went into this young man and I said, Wes, did you move our car? No, I did not, Dad. I would never do that. I said, Wes, did you move our car? And he knew. He was like a deer in the headlights. He had it. He had moved the car. But she loved the children. She raised the children filled with love over and over and over. We traveled around the world to hear Chris, our other son, perform, to Colombia, South America, London, England, Australia, and Spain. Jeanie and I went to go hear him sing and perform wherever he was. We tried to go there to support. We tried to support our children the best we could. They are our children, and to support them. We also were able to take 40 cruises. I know it's hard to believe. We did like to cruise. And if you lived in Washington, D.C., you know why. Getting out of that place was great, and especially with her teaching school. We loved to get on that ship and cruise. And I was able to minister even then. But the children were always her priority. You just need to know that, no matter what. And through the final years of her life, while she battled cancer and suffered from immeasurable pain, her sons would have to plead with her to be honest to them about her condition. She was the kind of mother that always put her children first, never wanted to be a burden, full of joy and laughter right up to her final days. She remained positive and precious with the children. And as a grandmother, she was every bit as loving and caring as she had been as a mother, and adored her 3 grandchildren, as I'm sure all of you do. And she loved her daughter-in-law. She would not like me calling her a daughter-in-law. She called her daughter, and she loved her dearly. I must tell you one more story, and I promise to quit because I don't like long funerals. But I promise our pastor deserves to speak. But I have to tell you this, and this is a stretch for me to tell in the pulpit. I could tell a lot of stories, be a stretch, but this is one. Jeanie knew I loved to play golf. I have golfing friends here today. They came to honor her, but they really came to see if I speak better than I play golf, and they're hoping I do. But when they put Jeanie on morphine by a pill here a few weeks ago, her pain was so bad. One Sunday, she was sick 5 times that day. I held her head in the bathroom 5 times. It broke my heart. She was so sick. And on the 4th time, as I was holding, now you got to picture this and bear with me, as I was holding her head over the porcelain bowl, and she's gagging, hurting. She knew I had a tea time on Monday, but the family asked me to go and try to get time away. On the 4th time, in between this, with her head down, she turned around and looked up at me, And she said, honey, you need to go play golf tomorrow. You need a break. I said, you know what? This is right. I said, when the word gets out that Wesley held the head of his wife while she was vomiting and made a tea time with the other hand, I said, the world's going to love Wesley Peyton when that word gets out. That's the kind of wife she was, golfers. And she, are you ready for this, cleaned my golf shoes for years. And I begged her not to. But when I came in, she would clean my golf. She said, I want your golf shoes. I said, no, Jeanie. She would clean my golf shoes. I married way up. A wonderful, I will close. Her faith sustained her throughout her entire life. And as I close, she simply lit up the world in my world. She was my strength. I provided strength to others. I was the man of God. I was the preacher. I was the chaplain. I was the speaker. I will pray for you. I will lay hands on you. But when in the darkness of life came and I was drowning, she was my strength. And without apology, I love my pastor. I love people that are here that love God, other pastors. But there was no one in the world I'd rather pray for me than Jeanie Peyton. And some of you know that when people, even here, friends of ours, when we go to Creek Rats and have met Peyton, wherever I was, when they met her, they would call me for prayer, but they say, you make sure Jeanie prays. They were saying, we're not counting on your prayers. You make sure she prays. And for us, and I would make sure she prayed. Don, thank you for letting us have some wonderful years at this church and the rest of the people. Thank you for being our pastor. Thank you for your love and kindness to her. One day, Don came to visit her and came back here and somehow found out we had gotten bad news. He went back to the hospital to pray with her again. He would sit with her and he would sing to her. And she would just smile. And last time I remember him coming in, he may tell this, I hope I'm not stepping on you too much, but the last time he came, she was able to sit in a chair, and I'll never forget her looking up, lifting both hands when she saw her pastor. So I'm going now to turn this service over to her favorite pastor and say thank you to each of you for all that you've done. God bless you.
I remember you. You're the one who made my dreams come true. A few kisses ago. I remember you. You're the one who said I love you too. I do, didn't you know?
Are you having a good time?
I am having the most wonderful time I have ever had in my life.
Close your eyes and rest your tired body next to mine. Nobody knows more than you. These hard times that we're living through, but baby, we'll go on and on. Hey, Lord knows we got each other, yeah. So kiss me hard and long. Ooh, hard times we can get over.
Well, yeah, but they don't sing this verse that we know, do they? They're a little different. Leaning, leaning, safe and secure from all alarm. Come on, Mom. Leaning, leaning, don't have an accent. Leaning on the everlasting arms. That was the that was the subject of the pastor's sermon this morning. Everlasting arms. And
Everlasting God.
everlasting God.
Money talks, but it don't sing and dance and it don't walk. As long as I can have you here with me, I'd much rather be forever in blue jeans. Honey's sweet, but it ain't nothing next to baby's treat. And if you pardon me, I'd like to say we do okay, forever in blue jeans. Baby, tonight, baby, tonight.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
I'm here on behalf of Revival Records. We have a new single out called Brighter Days, and we're just doing a worldwide survey, just trying to find out what makes people's days brighter. Thing you can think of, really. I mean, just...
Yeah. When my son comes home from Europe to see me, it is a bright, bright day.
Hi, Mom.
One of the brightest days ever, ever, ever.
Great. You're
Yes.
natural.
This is a bright day.
Hollywood for this one, I tell you.
Now concentrate on the positives, period. I love you very, very much, period. Let's talk soon, period. I just realized that I did that like I was typing a text, period. Just ignore all the periods.
It's shouting time in heaven, a sinner once lost is found. It's shouting time in heaven, salvation has been brought down. No wonder the angels rejoice to know my sins have been covered by the crimson flow, and now I'm feeling fine. I'm walking on the highway with my Lord, my name is written down in the courts of above and shout.